Well, former Vice President Mike Pence made his first public appearance since leaving the White House in January. Yesterday, he spoke to a crowd at the Palmetto Family Council annual gala in North Carolina to denounce the Biden administration's policies and the Democratic Party. Pence went on to praise his old boss's accomplishments and urged conservatives to challenge the, quote, far-left agenda. So joining me now to unpack more of the speech is political reporter Adam Brewster, who covered the event. Thanks for joining us this morning, Adam. Why did the former vice president choose South Carolina for his speech?
Well, South Carolina, of course, plays a critical role in the nominating process for the President of the United States. We all remember a little over a year ago, and now President Biden's campaign was really on life support. He came to South Carolina, won big, quickly turned around, and then the rest is history. He eventually went on to become the 46th president of the United States. Now, of course, the Republican nominating calendar is a bit different, or similar schedules, but the emphasis that Republicans place on Iowa, that's been a state that's very good for Republicans. And Democrats last year, there was a lot of chatter about how Iowa wasn't necessarily representative of the party and didn't capture its diversity. And all indications are among Republicans that Iowa is at least planning to keep its first in the nation caucuses on the Republican side of the aisle come 2024. Of course, this is a chance to get in front of some state lawmakers, Republican activists, conservative activists, and people involved in the faith community here, a community that's been very critical to Mike Pence's base of support throughout his political career. Of course, this all comes with the caveat that we are not only closer to last year's presidential primary than the 2022 midterms, but also the 2024 presidential primary. So there is really a long way to go before any decisions need to be made on that front.
Good point. South Carolina is getting a lot of sort of Republican love lately. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott made the Republican response to President Biden's address to Congress on Wednesday. Mr. Pence praised Scott a lot throughout the speech. What does this say about the current state of the party?
Well, certainly it's good politics to say nice things about a state senator, especially when that senator was receiving praise from across the Republican spectrum, really, on Thursday. But he seemed to agree with some of the things that Scott laid out in saying that Scott put forward a positive agenda. And those were words that we heard a lot from former Vice President Pence last night. The Republicans need to put forward this positive agenda and pitch their ideas and their values. And that is the key to winning back Congress and eventually winning back the White House. He compared, the moment that Republicans are in right now to 2010, when Republicans saw huge gains in the House and ate into Democratic majorities in the Senate. A couple years later, they flipped the Senate. And then, of course, President Trump won in 2016. So he said, history has shown that, Republicans can come back from defeats. And certainly the majority, at least on the House side and in the Senate, is much narrower than it was a decade ago. The political climate is, a little different, though, as well. But he aligned himself with what Tim Scott was saying on Wednesday night. And I think that those are the ideals that people like the former vice president are going to be pushing as you head into the 2022 midterms.
So despite trying to establish his own sort of political footing, Mike Pence used terms like radical left, liberal agenda. These are the sort of terms that surfaced during the Trump administration. We know that the former VP and the president, well, I guess it's hard to figure out exactly what the nature of their relationship is. It couldn't have been so good, at least on January 6th, when Mike Pence had to run out of the Capitol building in the middle of an insurrection and wasn't getting a lot of help from the president on that matter. But perhaps since then they've mended fences, if there were any fences to mend. But I'm just curious about the listeners and their response to the speech. I don't know if this is a particularly conservative group, but those sort of phrases, the radical left, that sort of stuff, how did they respond? And is Mike Pence sort of trying to carve out a little bit of a middle ground in what you heard?
Well, those sorts of attacks, radical left, right, and socialist agenda, we heard those, of course, from President Trump throughout his time in the White House. But we heard that also in campaigns for House, campaigns for Senate, campaigns for governor, down ballot into state legislative races. That attack was levied across the aisle, and Republicans are continuing that to paint Democrats as this party that is beholden to the most far-left members within the party. And, of course, former President Obama faced some of those same attacks, and it's certainly not new to be calling, for Republicans to be painting House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as a radical. They've been attacking her since she was the speaker during the early years of the Obama administration on those lines. So, last night it was, a Christian conservative group. Those lines were received, as you would expect. People certainly didn't boo, and they clapped when they heard those things and agreed with what he was saying about the President Biden's first 100 days. But I don't expect those attacks to go away. That is likely what we're going to see Republicans paint Democrats as we head into the 2022 midterm elections and those all-important Senate and House races take place.
Quickly before we let you go, Adam, did you hear any sort of rumblings or rumination about Pence's plans in 2024?
Well, again, it's still so early to say what he may do in 2024.
Yeah.
But in the more immediate future, in terms of 2022, we can expect him to be out and traveling more now that he's made this public appearance. And Aide said, he said, to the crowd, I'm going to have more to say in the coming months. He's got a podcast that's launching later this year. He's got some stuff with the Heritage Foundation. And then he's expected to be involved in campaigning during the 2022 midterm elections and putting out, that so-called positive agenda that he laid out last night as he tries to help Republicans win back the House and Senate.
Okay. Adam, thank you.